My name is Avitha Nofal. I am the Head of Regulation and Oversight at the Ombud Council. Now you may wonder, who is the Ombud Council? We're actually the new kid on the block, so we've not been around for that long a time. But maybe if I could just tell you briefly, in terms of the Financial Sector Regulation Act 2017, that is how we've come into play. So the Ombud Council is in effect a regulator to the financial ombud schemes. And to this extent, I think it's important just to talk to what is our mandate. Where is it that the Ombud Council actually features? Are we an ombud scheme that investigates complaints, or what else? The Ombud Council, as mentioned, is a regulator to the financial sector ombud schemes, to the financial sector ombud system itself. And we, in fact, oversee the financial ombud schemes in the country. And to do that, we have a full suite of regulatory and supervisory powers, all mandated in terms of the Financial Sector Regulation Act. Now, the Financial Sector Regulation Act also sets out the core mandate of the office. And that core mandate is, in fact, that we create awareness of the financial ombud system, as well as access and usage of the ombud system for financial customers. So ultimately, if you as a financial customer are utilizing services or goods in the financial sector or market infrastructures, know that in the event that you have a dispute, there is an ombud system that would be able to assist. So if I could, just go back one step and say that as a financial customer, you have the right to be treated fairly. But what does that mean? Being treated fairly by your financial institution, that is, means that if you feel that something has been amiss with the manner in which the financial institution has handled your product or service that you've engaged with them on, you have a right to then approach that financial institution and say to them, there is a problem, I'd like you to resolve this problem. What happens, however, if that financial institution does not give you a resolve to your complaint? And it is at that stage that you can take your complaint through to one of the financial ombud schemes that is overseen by the Ombud Council, and who would be able to assist you from a transparent perspective to fairly investigate your complaint. But let me ask you, who is a financial institution, and to what extent can one of the financial institutions be held accountable for? And this is where it's important to highlight again that a financial institution could be your bank, it could be an insurer, somebody that you have engaged with from a life perspective or a non-life perspective. It could be a financial services provider that's offering you advice or intermediary services, or your pension funds administrator, your provident fund administrator. If there's a problem, those entities that I've mentioned are some examples of financial institutions. So if you've been wronged by that financial institution, know that without having to approach an attorney, you can actually approach an ombud scheme that would be able to assist you to resolve your complaint at no cost. Again, I have to ask the question, but who are these ombud schemes that you speak of? The Johannesburg Stock Exchange Ombud is one of those schemes that the Ombud Council oversees. It's a very niche ombud scheme, and what that ultimately means is that they do not necessarily handle all your everyday customer complaints. Those would be limited to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and complaints relating to your brokers in that regard. Then one considers the National Financial Ombud Scheme, and I have to pause there because the National Financial Ombud Scheme is also a relatively new ombud scheme because they have been granted recognition by the Ombud Council on the 1st of March 2024. Prior to that date, that National Financial Ombud Scheme was not in existence. Now, the predecessor schemes to the National Financial Ombud schemes were the Banking Ombud, the Credit Ombud, the Short-Term Insurance Ombud, and the Long-Term Insurance Ombud. all handling complaints relevant to the respective jurisdictions of that office. Those schemes have taken into account the World Bank diagnostic report that was commissioned by the National Treasury and the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Considering the recommendations of that World Bank diagnostic report, one major recommendation was, in the eyes of the public, having confusion as being one item that needed some guidance on. The recommendation set out that there should be ideally a single ombud scheme that financial customers can go to for assistance to have their financial services and products complaints resolved. It was with that in mind that those 4 predecessor schemes then decided to amalgamate, and that culminated into the National Financial Ombud Scheme, which began operations in March of 2024. Now, those 4 predecessor schemes, like I've mentioned, handle specific types of queries, as it may have related to banking, to credit, to short-term insurance and long-term insurance. Though the National Financial Ombud Scheme still investigates all those types of complaints, but now those fall into 4 separate divisions of the National Financial Ombud Scheme. There is also a scheme called the Pension Funds Adjudicator, who would handle complaints relating to your pension disputes, your provident fund disputes, your employer contributions, two-pot complaints, and the like. And then there's the Phase Ombud. The Phase Ombud investigates complaints about advisory services as well as intermediary services. So if you've been given advice that has cost you money, basically, know that there is an ombud scheme called the Phase Ombud that will be able to investigate such complaints. Now, again, I have to pause here just to ask, but how is it that the Ombud Council can assist in the entire process of complaints handling? And to this extent, it is very relevant to highlight that inasmuch as the Ombud Council regulates the financial ombud schemes and the system itself, the Council does not investigate individual complaints from financial customers. That is the job of the financial ombud schemes, those 4 schemes that I've mentioned: the National Financial Ombud Scheme, the Phase Ombud, the Pension Funds Adjudicator, and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange Ombud. We can, however, assist a financial customer in the event that the financial customer alleges that one of those schemes has either failed to follow legislation, they have contravened their own governing rules, or may have followed a materially inappropriate process. In that instance, you may approach the Ombud Council, and we will be able to guide you through the process to lodge a complaint with our officers. Just remind yourself, we're not an escalation body, and we certainly will not review the outcome of a decision by the financial ombud schemes, because that will actually interfere with the complaints handling processes of a dispute resolution body such as the Ombud scheme themselves. And remember, the entire purpose of having the Ombud Council is to ensure that there's a transparent process in the form of the Ombud system for you to take your complaint through to.